So Jonathan Taylor just became the first player in NFL history to record 4 different games with 3 or more rushing touchdowns in the first 10 weeks of a season. His Colts are atop their division. He just put together arguably his best performance of the year in a primetime game. Can you call that primetime? I think so, even though I was pretty sleepy when it happened. He's having an outstanding season. That's the word I would use. Outstanding. I think that relative to his peers at his position, it's about as outstanding as a season can get, as a player can be. He's the best player on one of the best teams in football, maybe the best team in football, at least maybe record-wise by the end of this regular season. And so you know where I'm going with this probably. I think he has a very good argument to win the MVP award. He's making a very good case. The problem here is that we know he's not actually the most valuable player on the Colts. And I really don't want to get into a semantic debate on that with you right now. In fact, that's the whole point of this video, is to avoid those semantic debates. I am just telling you that the Colts are probably going to pay Daniel Jones more than they are going to pay Jonathan Taylor the next time that they got to deal with that. The economics of this situation here would imply that he is not the most important player to the success of this team in the long term, relative to, talent pools. Running backs in general are treated this way because football is a quarterback-centric sport. There's really no debate there either. Again, we don't really need to get caught up in the weeds of my intro here. We can go on all day about what a word like value means and how that word should be interpreted in relation to team success. Have at it in the comments right now if you want, but here's what I'm trying to say in this intro. Jonathan Taylor is having a season that very well may be the most impressive season in football this year. Impressive. I think Drake May is absolutely up there. I think that Matthew Stafford is up there. I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba is up there. There's a lot of impressive players playing football right now, but only one gets to win the award that we associate with being the most impressive player in a season. The most valuable player award, the MVP. When I was growing up, everybody kind of interpreted this award differently. I got to witness Adrian Peterson win the MVP award. For a while there, we all kind of knew that this was supposed to be the NFL's Heisman. That's what the MVP was supposed to be. And then somewhere along the way, we had a semantic awakening, and we realized that the word valuable in this award is not to be taken lightly, that term, and that's what we need to focus on here, effectively eliminating every position but one for the pool here, making this a quarterbacks only award. I mean, by definition, that's correct. That's the proper assessment, I would say. It's not a coincidence that the guys who now win this award are also generally being paid the most in this sport. They are the most valuable. That being said, though, I don't really care for this, and this Jonathan Taylor season is a prime example of why. This is about as good as it gets from a running back. I really don't know if there's more that you could want from a running back in a season. The Colts, in many ways, have been the story of this season, and Jonathan Taylor being the best player on him, the most outstanding player. Again, one final time, I think that absolutely lines him up as a guy who could win this thing if we were awarding this award. Right. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, because this really got me thinking. If I could rewrite NFL awards, make the MVP award like the Heisman, clear the semantic nonsense from this game, and embrace the real point of awards, which is to be whimsical, to remember players, to recognize players, and to spread positivity, not like toxic discourse. And again, that word semantic debates, I think I would actually do a lot here. I think this subject is really fun. I'm kind of surprised the more that I think about it at how limited the NFL's award categories are. So that's what I want to do today. I want to talk about awards that I think should exist in the NFL, that someday may exist in the NFL. I mean, we just added the Protector of the Year award this year, right? Change is possible. Everybody likes awards. Awards are fun. And I prepared a list of awards here, so let's get into it. And if you come up with one that I have not mentioned for this video, please drop it in the comments too. Maybe at the end of this season, I'll actually, dish these out and give my takes on who should win these hypothetical awards. Let's do this thing. So before we get into this, I also want to mention here are some general things you should know about these categories of mine. One, in Anthony land here, I think that nominations would be a really big deal. You know how in Academy Awards, like the Oscars or whatever, from the moment that an actor gets nominated on out, every time they're put in a trailer for a movie, on a billboard, on a poster, if they have been recognized for an award in the past, they're always going to get that tagline in the future. Emmy Award nominee, Oscar nominee. That's kind of how I think this should work in football. I think it's a really big deal if a player is a finalist. And when players are introducing themselves on the bottom of your screen during a primetime game, they should get a shout out here, even if they don't win. That's what I think. I also think that for my awards, for a lot of these categories, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but I'm really going to emphasize the gender divide here. And by gender divide, I just mean that, you know how like the Oscars will do like best male actor, best female actress. That can still be limiting too, but in the same way that there is that divide, I think we need to lean into offense and defense being divided as much as possible. Sure, a quarterback might be the most valuable piece on a football team, but I don't think that award night is really the night where it's necessary to remind everybody of that, even for our most important award. We should humble the quarterbacks a little bit, why don't we? So that's the other thing, kind of obvious, but offense, defense, big divide. Third thing here, I think that redundancy is okay when it's notable. I think that some of these award categories, they might overlap a bit, but the idea here, the intent is that the winners of these awards would not overlap unless they had like an insane season. I'm trying to keep the categories categorical here. I don't want to hit the classic, you know, like FedEx Air Player of the Year and MVP and having them both be the same guy or whatever. It's like, we get it. But I do want to have like, if an uncharacteristic guy wins multiple awards, that's possible and that's still fun to talk about. You know, like somebody clean sweeping the Oscars or whatever. And then finally, my final disclaimer here, not really a disclaimer, but help me with these names. Some of these I only have like the general category idea in mind, but maybe I haven't quite refined down what the term would be. So help me out here too. Help me out there. Now let's get into this. I'm going to list off these awards and I'm going to talk about some of the nominees that might be fitting this year. So starting out with player awards, we're going to do player awards first. That's the first category, kind of like actor, actress. I am not throwing heat to start this segment. In fact, I might take wind out of your sails with my first proposition here. That proposition being that instead of one player of the year award, MVP or MOP, I think I would divide it by offense and defense. That's just how I would do it. Some things are just not meant to be compared, and I do believe that in football, offense and defense kind of work this way. It's like offensive and defensive player of the year, except now with this one little tweak to the language, we would make it very possible for somebody like Jonathan Taylor to win this year, I think. And defense can be evaluated in its own pool. I think that this word is also the best word, as I've discussed before. Outstanding. I think that Jonathan Taylor is the most notable player of this NFL season. He stands out to me the most, and so he'd be my pick for offense here. Defense, I don't know. I'm still thinking. Next up for me, I've got the award to address you being upset that your quarterback might not have won the most outstanding player award. Football is a strategic game. It's a strategy game, right? And there is a bit of a positional hierarchy, at least on the mental level. Some guys are more in command than others. It's like a soldiers and generals sort of game. So to compensate for the lack of potential quarterback recognition in our first award, I've got the General of the Year award for both offense and defense. That's the next one that I'd throw out there. Admittedly, this is not too different from like first team All-Pro for quarterback. I'm aware of that, but I do think that with this language, again, there could be now a path to giving one guy first team All-Pro because maybe he has the best stats, and giving a different guy this award for being the most impressive commander of an offense, leading the charge the most, doing the most with the least potentially. I don't know, maybe you prefer the old strategy to that. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I'll get to the more interesting awards in a second, but we got to start big. I do also think that separating offense and defense here and emphasizing this as a category, general, it allows us to really appreciate the green dot players on defense. That's kind of what this would be for defense. The green dot player of the year award, that's the guy who is kind of relaying in signals from the sideline on a defense. Someone like Fred Warner, some safety, someone who has clearly commanded the best defense in football, the Marcus Smart award. I think this would be really fun. And I love pairing these two sides up against each other here. Imagine like prime Peyton Manning and prime Ray Lewis winning these at the same time and going up on stage one after the other. You appreciate the mental side of this game so much more when that dichotomy is laid out. So I really like that one. Next up, moving from the skill positions inwards, we have the Protector of the Year award. I think that's great. I don't want to change that. The best pass protecting lineman, pass protecting, I think should be recognized here. There are two types of offense in football, running and throwing. Let's recognize the former first and give this award most likely to a tackle. We already kind of know that that's where Protector of the Year is going. Tackle of the Year, right or left? Who opens up the most for their offense? Now here, you might be wondering, should I do the inverse? Should I do like a pass rusher of the year award? I don't know. I think you can be the judge of that. I'm not going to include it because I feel like more often than not, that's where most outstanding player defensively will go. But if we want it, we can include it. Something like the K Jewelers Pressure Makes Diamonds pass rusher pressure generator of the year. We can throw that in. But more importantly, next, I want to jump to interior interior offensive lineman, because protector of the year, I love the spirit of it, but I don't think it gets everybody, not even close. If we're going to show some of the big guys some love, why not show it to all of them? I'm going to call the interior offensive lineman award puller of the year. You can debate that name if you want, but like I said, we've got the passing and we've got the ground game in football. The ground game generally works through the interior. You got to start there. So why not make this the award that's focused on that? Now, like I said, repeats, I think they're cool if they're notable. If Penei Sewell deserves both protector and puller, sure, why not? But if like Quentin Nelson is having one of the seasons of all time as a left guard, give the man some credit, why don't we? So we've got the line down, at least for now in this player part. Next, I want to hop to defense, and this is another category where I think that a repeat is allowed if it's notable. The Simply Safe Lockdown Award. I'll throw in some brand names here when I come up with them. Best coverage player, passing and running, two parts of football, right? It can be a safety, it can be Pat Surtain, it can be a cornerback. They can be the most outstanding defensive player too, but at the very least, let's give a secondary player an award of their own. To mirror this, on the offensive side, we could do the All-State Good Hands Award for receivers, most notable receivers. Pair that with the FedEx Ground Award for running backs or whatever. We already have that. Sure, someone might be redundant here, winning most outstanding and the ground award, same with receivers and the hands and the big one, but again, if it's notable, we allow it. But then also here's another one where I think that I need your guys' help. So we've got maybe a pass rusher of the year award, and we've got a pass pro and run blocking offensive lineman award. I need a good name for this one, but I want to shout out defenders who are great at stopping the run. Defensive trenches awards, I'm thinking like the two gapper of the year, but this would be fun, right? Something about like, don't tread on me, I don't know, like a flex seal, plug the leak, clog the drain, an award for those guys who do that stuff, because that needs recognition as well. But Anthony, sometimes it's like the linebackers who are the guys who are really stopping the run here, really putting in that dirty work. Well, that's where I went next. That's what I thought of next for these player awards. There's this term that I love that Derek Klassen of the Athletic Football Show uses a lot. He calls these certain types of utilized players on a defense and an offense the henchmen, the guys who do the dirty work. I think that would be a fun category. I don't know how the branding might go, but something like the Steely Dan Dirty Work Award for Henchman of the Year. I think Andrew Van Ginkel. I think like Cam Curl. I'm not saying that Cam Curl deserves NFL awards recognition this year, but you know the types of guys I'm talking about, right? The very guys who need more recognition in award shows. Something to emphasize, underline here, that their hard work has not gone unnoticed. This could go for offense and defense too, right? This would be a great time to recognize fullbacks, guys who help the run game go, those sixth offensive lineman figures, maybe the third tight end, whatever it is. Anthony, but sometimes it's like the star players who are doing the dirty work. Do we want like Puka Nacua to win the Good Hands Award and this one? Well, no, not this one, because he gets a lot of recognition for what he does, but I will say that the next category I'm thinking of, it's pretty similar here. The Swiss Army Knife Multi-Tool Award for versatility. This would be great for both offense and defense, I think. At this point, we can statistically quantify when guys are doing a lot of different things. Why not give Puka Nacua and Kyle Hamilton the shout-outs they deserve? Let's shout out those guys who do the most. Maximize their stamina bar. Put in all that strength and conditioning work. I think that would be a really cool category. Now, I'm not done with offense and defensive awards, but I also want to shout out special teams for a second, too. I suppose this could kind of be covered by All-Pro awards, so it's up to you if you want to keep these, but some insurance-themed award for coverage in special teams, the gunner, the effort player at the bottom of the roster, the Matthew Slaters, you know the ones. Returner of the year could be fun, some Seesaw brand or something. Seesaw brand, like that's a thing. Someone who swings that win probability for you, earns you those points on the margins, especially now that we have this new kickoff. That would be fun to talk about. All-Pro recognition's got it, I know. I don't see why we can't, like, have the kicker go up on stage, though, for award. Have a kicker go up. Credit card-themed award for points. I mean, these guys are the leading scorers in most NFL seasons. Fun fact, did you know that Jonathan Taylor, this might be the first time in forever that it won't be a kicker who leads the league in points. It might be JT. You can get a funeral home to sponsor, like, a coffin corner award for punters. I'm kidding, but why not get the punters up? That's enough of that, though. Maybe you hate special teams. So a couple more player awards I would have would be most outstanding rookie offense, most outstanding rookie defense. Of course, we have those already. I think most outstanding undrafted player could be really cool. I think that would be fun. And I think it would be a good time maybe for the NFL to just kind of promote those stories as a form of like a most improved player award. Up to you on like maybe what the category should be, but really just like the you came out of nowhere award. Brock Purdy winning it or something. I know he wasn't undrafted, but do you know what I'm getting at here? Again, I'm just throwing some of these out. I do think that most improved is a without question award that needs to exist. That's what this one allows me to jump off to. We're doing most improved and we are separating it from comeback player of the year. We are not allowing people to entangle those things any longer. Why is this even a thing that's still happening in football? I don't know. Most improved offense and defense. These ones really get me going too, because like there are so many opportunities to hand this out, I think. And someone like Drake May, for example, I mean, as a Pats fan, I really do advocate for him being an MVP candidate, maybe a front runner, but I'm aware that maybe his final stats won't get him there, even if the record might. I'm leaving here with something though, and if this was an award, I thought he was great last year, but it goes without question that he would probably win this one, and that would be a cool moment of recognition. I love how the NBA does this award. People do joke though that maybe this award is not allowed to be handed out to top picks in basketball. Up to you, but this would be great for football, without a doubt. Offense and defense most improved. And then comeback player of the year, we are making that its own separate award. Injuries are a big part of football. We got to acknowledge them as such, and we got to acknowledge the guys who come back from injuries who are resilient. And then finally for my player section, I think that an international corner would be pretty cool, just to recognize new players from overseas who are additions to the NFL and who have made a name for themselves and helped to diversify and expand this game. I know the Oscars does like an international picture award. Why not do that here? I mean, it's an American sport. Let's recognize what's going on with that sport. On to the next category. In the same way that there are actor awards and film awards, I think that front offices and teams should be eligible for awards as well, like the full team. I think that would be interesting if they could win some of these. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. We're at about the midpoint in the NFL season now, right? We're starting to get a clearer and clearer idea of who is going to make the playoffs, who may be a finalist for all the big awards, which playoff races, division title races might come down to the wire, and which dark horse teams there may be for this year's crop of postseason attendees. And yet we still are kind of at that point right now where there are still plenty of shots to call, sleeper picks to make, bragging rights to be had. I know I've got stock in a couple of guys, couple of teams that I'm waiting to unleash and brag about if I am correct. Nobody has to know if I am not correct though. Either way, if you're looking to try and call your shot, new customers on DraftKings who bet $5 get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Right now you can sign up using my promo code ESQANT. Again, that's ESQANT. Thank you so much to DraftKings for continuing to help me over this football season, making these videos, these productions possible. Now back to it. I think that coach of the year is fine as is general manager of the year. I think these are fine even though they have their flaws. I actually don't want to do too many coach ones here. I think that's always weird for dynamics when you get too carried away with shouting out those guys who are up in the booth at the risk of putting down players, you know what I mean? Oh, congratulations, you exploited players the best and found the most surplus value on their contracts or something. I just don't want to do too much of it. But yeah, coach of the year, GM of the year. I think that play caller of the year could be cool for both offense and defense. We have assistant coach of the year. I think that could also just be its own category. But then I also have some team awards, like film awards. I think these would be pretty interesting. By phrasing them as team awards, I think it's cool. It's kind of like a film where you can kind of let anybody go up on stage to accept them. If you want to send players up for some of these, you can. If you want to send some execs up, or a combination of the two, you can. Wouldn't that be cool seeing like Howie on stage at the same time as some of his Philly players being like, we're so happy we could make this production possible. So first I have what I'm kind of thinking of as a coaching award, but by phrasing it as a team award, there's tension here, but an award for resilience. It's kind of like a coach of the year award, except it's recognizing that maybe one team lost a bunch of value, right? They had a lot go wrong for them and they still pulled through. Kyle Shanahan would be great for that this year. A good way to get him like a coach of the year shout out, even if he doesn't win the whole thing. Last year, Dan Campbell and the Lions would have been great for this. It was a bummer that he got no recognition for what they did. I think that next, and this one's kind of a challenge, it really depends on your wording, but a Cinderella award, so to speak. Something that uses, say, like Vegas odds, even as a reference point for where everybody stood on a team prior to a season and where they ultimately got. Maybe that's what coach of the year would kind of be. I know that right now we kind of use coach of the year as like a most improved award cover up. It's like the coach coach who got the player there. We're going to give that coach the Coach of the Year award. I do think that just by separating things now, Coach of the Year could go to the guy with the most dominant team, perhaps. In this award, maybe like some Hallmark-oriented story of the season thing. It could work if we get the name right. Help me out with the name. Next up, I have like a game management award. These are the ones where I'm really struggling with names because you got to be careful how you phrase them. But an award in management, as in being cold-blooded, being clutch, situationally sound, embracing the analytics, adding the most win probability to your team. And again, these can go to the whole team. So like if the analytics staff and the coach are on the same page and they're doing fun things, and the players are all in here too, and they keep winning these close games because of how great they are at this stuff, could be fun to just award it to a team and have someone go up. Maybe the clutch quarterback, maybe the coach. Next up, I think this one kind of works with that Cinderella one, but maybe this is a better way to phrase it. But like a new identity award, something that it's almost phrased as like a welcome. We are glad that you are now a part of the league, like a rising team, hot rising star thing, where we recognize that one team turned a corner way faster than we expected them to. And this kind of shouts out a GM who added maybe a lot of new value to that team overnight over the course of an offseason, but it also just shouts out maybe a new quarterback, maybe a new coach, all of these things, right? So like the Patriots this year, the Broncos last year, the Vikings last year, any of those names. I think it would be fun to have. And again, if you're shouting out the whole team, I don't think it's awkward to award this as a thing. Treat the team like it's a film production. And then this is probably my favorite part for this team section. I want to do unit awards. Is that a crime? Imagine how sick it would be if you got to see all 5 offensive linemen, or more, now that we're in the 6 offensive lineman days, but go up on stage and win an award for like Trench's Bunch of the Year. Imagine a wide receiver room getting to all go up on stage together and say they're proud of what they've done. Defense, special teams. This would be really fun, I think. And it would also increase turnout, right? If you're nominated for this, if you win this, all your boys get to go up there. That would be cool. So that's the final one for my team-based awards. And then after that, finally, I have moment awards. Kind of like a best scene thing. So we've got moment of the year, of course. That's just its own thing. Best play, best highlight. I think best catch, best throw, best run, interception, sack. Recognizing a combination of both play made and stakes of said play. That would be fun. There's no harm in doing that. It's really easy to flash these plays up. I think kick of the year, return of the year, at seesaw again. Clutch play. I mean, we kind of have that one, don't we? And then closing this thing out, this one really gets me going, but like game plan of the year. Wouldn't that be fun? Get like NFL Films to do a quick 3 to 5 minute voiceover explaining how one coach caught the other team off guard by doing something unorthodox for a game. You don't have to put the coach on the spot here and make him accept this. They wouldn't want that, but just a shout. You could do this for both offense and defense. That would be neat to me. You could do a trick play of the year as well. That would be a fun category. Encouraging creativity, not a bad thing to do. And then finally, I think game of the year. That would be a fun one, just like an everybody come together and admire how cool football is. Let's remember this really awesome game that happened. Something like that. And then finally, I think we should end with like a Walter Payton award, but both for players and for teams. I think a team Walter Payton award would be really neat as well. Kind of doubles as like an owner of the year award without actually glazing owners who don't need that. That's how I would close things out. Always on that heartwarming note. So yeah, that's my brain dump. That's my notes dump for all of these potential awards that I would love to see in the NFL someday. You don't have to love all of them, but if you like any of them, I'm taking that as a win. I would love to hear if you have any that I have not thought of. I spent a little while trying to come up with these, but maybe there was something right in front of my face that I just did not even pick up on. Again, I might come back to this at the end of the year and actually just hand these out. That could be a fun exercise. In the meantime, I will keep semantically being annoying and telling all of you that Drake May should win everything ever, and that he is the most valuable player, but that's neither here nor there. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you come back next week for whatever I've got then. You can find me on TikTok. I break down film over there. You can find me on Twitter. You can email me. Thanks once more for watching, and have a good one. Have a good week.